Hello, and welcome to Antarctica 21. My name is Rhino Daniels. I'm the market manager here in North America. We are a small ship air cruise specialist offering small-scale ship-based adventures to Antarctica. This is a great slide. This is showing you where Antarctica lies in relation to South America. And of course, Antarctica is the highest, it's the driest, it's the coldest, and it's the windiest continent on Earth. Now, the finger that you see here extending north is the Antarctic Peninsula. And this is where we focus our departures during the Antarctic summer. The body of water in between that finger and the Cape Horn is the fabled Drake Passage, which is home to some of the world's roughest, some of the wildest seas in the world. And for many years, sailing across was the only option to get to Antarctica. In 2003, our founders wanted to offer travelers a more convenient way to reach Antarctica. Of course, not wanting to spend as much time at sea and spending more time in destination on your vacation. At this time, we became the pioneers of what is now the air cruise model. And we've got over 250 flights under our belt. And we've really fine-tuned and developed an incredibly efficient and comfortable way to get to the destination. So we're able to offer a private yacht-like experience on board with all the amenities and comforts that you would find in a well-appointed wilderness lodge. Now, our air cruises at a glance, we've got 4 main itineraries that we offer. The first being the classic Antarctic air cruise, which is a 7-night, 8-day itinerary with 5 nights on board. This is a perfect way to really get the complete Antarctic experience. If you have a bit more time, you can go on the Polar Circle air cruise, which is a 9-night, 10-day itinerary, 2 extra days on the peninsula. And of course, this itinerary, we endeavor to cross the Antarctic Circle to explore the sea ice further south and just generally spending more time on the peninsula. Antarctic South Georgia Air Cruise is a 15-night, 16-day itinerary, which is 14 nights on board. And this is a fantastic itinerary to combine both South Georgia, which is kind of the jewel in the crown for the region with high concentrations of wildlife and stunningly gorgeous scenery, and to combine it with the Antarctic Peninsula. Now, if you're on a budget or if you're limited for time, there is the Antarctic Express Air Cruise. And this is a great itinerary for an introductory and affordable expedition experience. So 5 nights on board, so a 5 nights itinerary, 6 nights, 6 days with 4 nights on board the ship. Now, our fly cruises depart from Punta Arenas, and it's a short 2-hour flight. As you can see here, this is an RJ-85 or an RJ-100, and these aircraft are built specifically for operating in remote and wilderness locations. So upon arrival in King George, we really hit the ground running, and our adventure begins with a short Zodiac ride to the ship, and there's no waiting days to get to the destination. There's no uncomfortable sea passage. The adventure really begins right away. We operate small boutique expedition ships, and each of those ships will carry a maximum of 68 to 75 passengers on board. Now, this allows us to deliver a very personalized level of service, not found on the larger ships. And you really get to know, of course, the staff and the crew, but also your fellow passengers. Now, the ship featured here is the Magellan Explorer. This is a ship that we've designed and we built from the ground up and brought into service about a year ago. And she's been purposely built for efficiency and comfort, and of course, it's ice strengthened to explore the continent. Now, as a polar operator, there's very strict guidelines on what we can or cannot do in destination. And one of those, and it's incredibly important, is that only 100 passengers can get off the ship and onto landing sites at any one time. So because we're operating with a small footprint, it allows us the luxury of a completely flexible itinerary of getting off the ship and onto the excursions and participating in the activities. There's no waiting or lost opportunities because we can't get everyone off the ship and into the Zodiacs. So we can turn this around, spend more time on shore. And this is absolutely key and really sets us apart from the others. Typically an excursion is 2 to 3 hours, and we'll do it twice a day. Now, why Antarctic? Well, first of all, it's a destination unlike no other. It's unworldly. It's stunning scenery, as you can see here. And of course, the high concentrations of wildlife that we see on the peninsula brings us back. And it is absolutely jaw-dropping scenery. It's one of those once-in-a-lifetime bucket list experiences. Even to this day, after 22 years in the industry, I still get goosebumps when I travel. Another question I get asked frequently is who travels? Who travels on our voyages? Now, our passengers come from all walks of life, all nationalities, and some come to celebrate big moments or life events like anniversaries, retirement, birthdays, or even career milestones. We certainly see a growing market within solo travelers, and what better way to travel in a safe method on board a ship, experience a new destination. You're traveling with other travelers, but also you're traveling with other solo travelers to make lifelong friendships along the way. And for those that are traveling alone, we do have various options available, like sharing a cabin or choosing one for your own if you prefer. Multi-generational families traveling together, as well as more and more young families we're starting to see on board, and they want to travel to experience Antarctica. And who better to share this than with family? Now, unlike the more traditional cruise experience, our focus is on exploring, and of course, exploring the destination and getting where the larger ships cannot, and spending time off the ship as much as possible to participate in the activities. Now, we treat the ships that we have really like an adventure lodge, and each day we venture out on these excursions, we're out and on safari to participate in the many options available. As I mentioned before, with 2 excursions a day, the days are filled and they're quite active. Now, of course, if you're into photography, Antarctica is the absolute dream destination. From wildlife to soaring mountains to massive glaciers oozing off these mountains. And of course, the contrasting colors, and with the snow, the ice, and the dark hues of the sea. You also mix it with some incredibly long sunsets or sunrises. It's almost impossible not to take that picture postcard photo. And you never know what's lurking just around the corner. And of course, the ships make that perfect vantage point to capture photography. Now the polar plunge is available as well. And I think it's a must do. It's quite literally a breathtaking activity. And it is once in a lifetime. I've had the opportunity to do it. I'm not a fan of the icy water, but once was enough. And not necessarily for the faint of heart, but it is something that is enjoyable. And especially with the peer pressure on board and your fellow travelers egging you on, it does you walk away with the story of a lifetime, and of course bragging rights for years to come. So I do recommend it. Now, there's always an opportunity to enjoy snowshoeing and hiking, kayaking on our excursions, and our landing sites are specifically chosen for exactly that purpose. Now, we can break off into smaller groups, and we can cater to all fitness levels. So there's always an opportunity for optional excursions as well, for those that want a bit more activity, to get a little bit further off the beaten track. So whether you're into snowshoeing or the extended hiking program, or even kayaking, there are options available. Now, traveling in small groups really allow all of our passengers to choose on how active or inactive they wish to be. There's always plenty of time for activities, or simply just to relax, to take it all in. And that's something I really recommend as well. Just spend time, sit down on the beach, listen to the sounds of Antarctic, listen to that chaos of a landing site with the penguins and the chicks and all the activity that you find there. The sounds of the groaning and the creaking glaciers. Just breathe in that delicious air. It's something that I certainly recommend. Now, the large expedition team that we have not only assists with some of these activities, but they're also there to provide these engaging presentations on board, as well as the interpretation out in the field when you're in the Zodiacs. Now, this may include some of the interactive workshops on board, or we collect data. We can collect data for a program, the Citizen Science program, that supports scientists from around the world. Now, Antarctica is the perfect destination, of course, for these activities and the wildlife, but it's also home and it has a fascinating history. So walking in the footsteps of the explorer is something that we're able to do when we visit some of the old abandoned whaling stations, or visiting the old ports, and even some of the research stations that are currently active and used for research. Now, as far as wildlife is concerned, Antarctic does not disappoint. The minute you arrive, you can be treated to a number of species of penguins, such as the Adelie penguins here, the chinstrap penguins, the macaroni and gentoo. Those are some of the species, the main species that we will find on the peninsula. For those that are including South Georgia in the itinerary, there's a slew of species not found on peninsula, which you'll find there. Now, as we visit in the summer months, so do the marine mammals, the whales. They migrate south to the Antarctic during the summer to feed. And some of the whales that we can see on any of our voyages could be minkies, it could be orcas, it could be humpback whales, or even the blue whale from time to time. Now, depending on the time of year you travel, we will see semi-aquatic mammals as well. 6 types is typically what's found on the peninsula, including a leopard seal here. They become very active towards the latter half of the season, especially when the young chicks are taken to the water. Crab-eater seals are often found on the ice floes. The whale seal here is my favorite. It's got this beautiful smile. And elephant seals, some of the largest species that we'll find in the southern oceans. Now, Antarctic seabirds, of course, is something that we will see along the way, especially birds like the skuas. Skuas are very active on our landing sites. They're one of the prey species that we see on the peninsula. And for any itinerary that we have that will spend a bit of time at sea, whether it's crossing from South Georgia down to the Antarctic Peninsula, or if you're on an express trip that is traveling back to South America across the Drake Passage, seabirds like the albatross or the storm petrels really become active during those windy days at sea. Now, when to travel? This is one of the most, not necessarily most important question, but it is a question that is asked quite frequently. And the answer to that, the short answer is there isn't a better time to travel. The Antarctic summer is short. It runs from November to the end of March. And it's dramatically different from month to month. Now, just a quick snapshot of the season. November is the start of the Antarctic season. For me, it's one of my favorite times. It's a gorgeous time to travel because it's very pristine. Lots of snow, lots of ice. The whales are heading south. The penguins are setting the nesting sites. So it's really becoming more and more active as that summer melt slowly starts to take hold. Now, by December, the nesting sites are now well established. We start seeing more of the melts on the landing sites. Towards the end of the month, we actually might see some of the penguin chicks hatching, the eggs hatching, and start seeing little chicks peeking through from time to time. Now, with January is really the height and the peak of the Antarctic summer. Now, these chicks, they have a very short cycle. So the chicks really start to fatten up quickly. They start to grow very quickly. And January, the landing sites are absolutely chaotic, with the youngs, of course, begging for food and wanting the parents' attention. Of course, the parents are just running through the landing sites, trying to get to their chicks to feed. Of course, the skuas, as I mentioned before, they're also there. They're there to feed. So it really becomes a real hive of activity in the middle of the Antarctic summer, which is found in January. Now, towards the latter half of the summer into February, the days become a little bit shorter. We start getting more softer sunlights, sunrises, sunsets that could last a few hours. So a really good time to travel if you're into, of course, wildlife, but also into photography with some of the softer lights. March is towards the very end of our Antarctic season. This is one of my favorite times to travel as well. And the reason for that is at this time of year, the whales really come alive. The whales, of course, are there throughout the season, but they're there to feed. Now in March, they are now well fed. They spend a lot more time just relaxed, socializing with each other, interacting with each other, as also with us. So it's a great time of year if to see and experience whales. Now, if you want some more information, there is always more information available on our website, listed here on this slide. And if you wish, you can also call one of our sales staff. You can call us toll free here in North America, or you can email us at sales@antarctica21.com. So for my team and I here at Antarctica 21, thank you for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed the introduction, and we look forward to hosting you on board, you or your clients on board one day soon. Thank you.